Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Kalunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Shri Chinmaya Yatishasya Gurum Vande Tapovanam Tam Himavad Vibhutim Vai Jnana Vairagya Rupinam Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om, my humble pranams to you all. So in this most beautiful Upanishad, so far we have studied 2 questions out of the 6 students who approached the Rishi, Vipalada Rishi. The first question was, Kuto hava ima praja prajayanta iti. Oh Bhagwan, please tell us from where this whole praja has come, this whole universe that I am seeing, where has it come from? What is the origin? And the Rishi answers very beautifully that it has come from Prajapati, from the creator. And this whole universe is sustained by the sun, by Agni, and Prajapati himself. And Prajapati has manifested as 2, Prana and Rai. Rai is matter, all the subtle and the visible matter, and Prana, which is the energy. And energy and matter together have combined. And then he ends the first query with the mention that the same Prana and Rai manifests as all human beings and manifests as the child. So as the male and the female, when they meet, then the child that manifests is also Prajapati. And that's the one that moves in the womb and then manifests. And in the second question, the student asked about prana, because the teacher had mentioned prana, but he does not directly ask about prana. He asks about what sustains and enlivens this body. Because from the cosmos, now the question has become a little more subtle, that in this body which is enlivened, what is it that enlivens it? And out of the factors that enliven, which one is the supreme? That's what the student wanted to know. And the Rishi starts out with a story which we had heard, where all the 14 elements, the 5 sense organs, 5 organs of action, and the 4 antakaranas are all arguing that I am the supreme. Without me, the body cannot survive. And then prana gets up and says, you are wrong. It is me, the enlivening principle, because of which this body is enlivened and sustained, and they did not believe him. So Prana got up to leave. And when Prana got up, they all started suffocating. And so they said, please don't leave. We agree you are the supreme. And so the rest of the second query, all these 14 do stuti of Prana, Prana stuti, which we saw in the last 2 or 3 weeks, where it says, Prana, you are the supreme, you are Prajapati, you are the creator, you are the sun, you are the fire, you are the one that sustains and nourishes us, and you are the one that carries our oblations to the ancestors. And you are the source of all the yajnas. So please protect us like a mother protects a child, and please do not leave. So they all accepted Prana's role as the supreme. Here Prana represents Prajapati, Hiranyagarbha, which has manifested as consciousness, as the enlivening principle. So now we come to the third query, which maybe Lata, you may want to repeat the third question. You have that?
Oh, I have it, yes.
Athahainam
Athahainam
Kausalyascha
Kausalyascha
Ashvalayana Papracha
Ashvalayana Prapacha
Bhagavanta Kuta Esha
Bhagavanta Kuta Esha
Prano Jayate
Prano Jayate
Kathamayati
Kathamayati
Asmin Shariram
Ashmin Shariram
Atmanam Va Pravibhajya
Atmanam Va Pravibhajya
Katham Pratisthate
Katham Pratisthate
Kenotkrameti
Kenotkrameti
Ekatham
Ekatham
Bahyam Abhidhatte
Bayam Abhidhatte
Katham Adhyatmamiti.
Katham Adhyatmamiti.
So now we'll all read together. You can please mute. Athahainam Kausalyashchashvalayana Papracha Bhagavan Kuta Esha Prano Jayate Kathamayati Asmin Sharira Atmanam Va Pravibhajya Katham Pratisthate Kena Utkrameti Ekatham Bahyam Abhidhatte Katham Adhyatmamiti. So now the next student is Kausalya Ashvalayana. Not Ashvalayana, but Ashvalayana. Why do we say Ashvalayana? Because he is the son of Ashvalayana. And Ashvalayana is very famous because he was the student who approached Brahmaji himself to get the highest knowledge, which we have studied as Kaivalya Upanishad. And there Ashvalayana approaches Brahmaji and says, Bhagavan Adihi Brahma Vidyam Varishtham Yada Sadbihi Sevyamana Niguna. So he says, oh Bhagavan, please reveal to me this highest knowledge which good people use and which leads them to the highest. And Brahmaji reveals the knowledge to Ashvalayana. And later on in this very short Upanishad, but very beautiful, the students himself experiences that state of enlightenment. And he says, Mayyeva Sakalam Jatam, May Sarvam Pratishtitam, May Sarvam Layam Yati, Tad Brahmadvayam Asmiham. So this great Rishi, who as a student had learned from Brahmaji that I am that supreme Brahman, and in me this whole world is born, sustained, and perishes. So that great Rishi's son is Ashvalayana. So Ashvalayana's son is Ashvalayana. So we see that he comes from very noble heritage. So this Ashvalayana Papracha, he asks the Rishi, Pippala, the Rishi, Bhagwan, O Bhagwan, O Lord, Kuta Esha Prano Jayate. Kuta means from where. That's the fifth case. Esha Prano Jayate. This prana. So this prana which you had talked about in the first two questions, where first one we talked about prana and rai, and second is prana is the supreme. But I wish to know more details about this prana. First of all, from where does it emerge? From where it is born? Jayate. Katham ayati, Katham ayati asmin shariram. Sharire. Katham ayati asmin sharire. How does this come into this particular body? How does it enter into the body? And then having entered Atmanam va pravibhajya. Having Atmanam here means itself. This prana itself having divided, pravibhajya, having divided, katham pratisthate. How does it stay in this body? Why does it not leave? How is it maintained? And then when it is time, what decides when prana should leave? And how does the prana leave? Kena utkramati. How does this prana leave? And katham bahyam abhidhatte. And how you had said, oh Guru, you had said that the outer world is sustained by prana, and katham adhyatmam iti. So how does this prana sustain the outer world and the inner world of the individual? So actually he has asked 6 questions in one question. Where does the prana come from? How does it enter? How does it maintain? How does it divide and maintain? How does it leave? And what sustains the outer world and the inner world? So beautiful question. And since the question is asked of an Upanishad teacher, every question the teacher takes us to the highest knowledge. He does not limit himself just to the question. Otherwise, this he could have asked any physiology teacher. There are 5 pranas, and but no, the Rishi is taking us to the highest. And what he's saying is, what is the source? As Gurudev says in his commentary beautifully, where science ends, there Upanishad starts. Because science says, oh, there is matter and energy, and there was this big bang, and so energy and matter are interchangeable and they are indestructible. That's very good, Einstein and Newton and everything. But then they don't say, where did this energy come from? What is the origin of? And they say, oh, we don't know that. When we find out, we will know, let you know. We are doing a lot of research. But the Upanishad, all the scientific facts are just side points. The main focus of the Upanishad is to tell us what is the source of this whole universe. And we can see that this student is very intelligent, and the questions he asks are very pointed. But here, he says the pranas are the one that and live in the senses. But here, when he talks about prana dividing into 5, he's not talking about prana, the Prajapati, the supreme consciousness. He's talking about prana, which is the effect. So first we had heard about prana is the cause, but now here prana, when it divides into 5, it is not that supreme consciousness, but it is the manifest prana that we experience in the body, which divides into 5, which pervades this entire body and then stays. And that is a very interesting question, because you think about it, the air is constantly going in and out, in and out. And there are 9 holes in this body, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, the mouth, 2 ears, and the lower. And despite the air doesn't leak out, like in a tire, in a car tire or a bicycle tire, you have 1 hole, all the air leaks out, tire gets flat. But we have this prana going in and out, and we still don't get flat. So what is it? It is a, it is a wonder. And that is our problem in the modern age. We have lost that ability to wonder. How does it happen? We don't, we say, "ठीक है, I know it, I've understood 5 pranas." So, and we also feel that I'm too old to learn. This, I'm too old now. I'm 60, 70. I can't learn all this new knowledge. That's why I admire Mohini Auntie at 92. She's here. So the point is that we are never too old to learn, and we should never lose that wonder, that sense of wonder, that who is the one that is producing this marvelous universe that goes on and on and on and on, trillions and quadrillions, and I'm at so much distance. And who is maintaining all that? All the planets are maintaining their place. Nobody crashes into anybody else. In the earth, how all this manifest. I remember we had gone to that Great Barrier Reef, and when you go snorkeling, there's thousands and thousands of fish of every color imaginable, combinations of colors. And who is the artist? Who is the producer of this great, movie that is going on? So we don't wonder, and that is why he says children have the ability to wonder. They say, "Oh, how is this happening?" And when they are in a joint family, they used to be, each child will be given a seed, and then they will put it in the little pot and then water it daily, and then they are watching to see how this plant is coming out. So that childlike ability to wonder, we have lost. And that is the problem, that we have become very cynical. ठीक है, होता है, world is all bad, nobody is good. We have all these ideas. So this ability to understand, we have lost. And that's what he asks, the student asks, that what is that beauty because of which this prana enters and then the prana leaves at the time of death? What is it that makes the prana leave? And how does it leave? From where does it leave? So death is also a very important topic. And talking about death, so this lady was told by her doctor she doesn't have much time to live. She was old and quite sick. So she goes to the undertaker and writes him a check for $10,000. And she says, "This will take care of my cremation and casket and everything." Undertaker says, "Yeah, no problem." And she says, "I want to be cremated. And after cremation, you put my ashes, disperse them in Costco." So he says, "Disperse them in Costco? Why do you want to disperse them in Costco?" She says, "That way my daughters will at least visit me twice a week." Some people 7 days a week. So, so, so this body is gross, but when the prana leaves, it is too subtle. We can't see the prana leaving, even though you may be with a person who is taking his last breath. Actually, some people who have a very subtle mind are able to perceive that breath leaving, but most of us, our thinking is too gross. So that's why the student asks, what is it that makes the prana leave? So this question directly takes us to Brahma Vidya. So beautiful question. And the Rishi, first of all, will praise the student like a good teacher. They always praise the student. And also because this question is so beautiful, most of us don't think of all these. So Kusumi, you have the book. You can please do the second one. Are you there?
Yes, I am here. I'm just, my book closed down, so I'm just looking for the page.
Okay.
70, page 70 in the old.
In the
Old
old, in the new one, it's 115. So
The
depending.
old one is 70.
Old one is 70.
Okay. Yeah, it just closed down, so I'm just trying to.
Second shloka.
Second shloka in
query.
second in query 3. On,
Okay.
you found it?
Mine is 67. Yeah. Okay.
Tasmai sahovacha
Tasmai sa uvacha
ati prashnan prichhasi
ati prashnani prachasi
brahmishtosi iti
ramishtosti iti
tasmateham bravimi.
tasmateham pravivi.
Okay, all together you can please mute. Tasmai sahovacha ati prashnan prichhasi brahmishtosi iti tasmateham bravimi. So here the teacher first of all praises the student because of the quality of the question, and also because he has seen that the student is very evolved. As we know, we had studied in the first query, when they approached the teacher had said, stay here for 1 year with brahmacharyam, serve the ashram, listen, and be in that atmosphere. And also these 6 students were already very advanced. They had studied the Vedas, they had the apara vidya, but they did not have the highest knowledge. So the teacher already knows the quality of the student. So he says, Tasmai, to that student, Sir here is Pipalada Rishi, Guru, Ha Uvacha, very clearly Uvacha, he said. And what did he say? Ati Prashnan Prichasi. Ati means very transcendental. See, Ati means that which transcends. So your question is not a simple question that can be answered by the mind and intellect, but it transcends the mind and intellect. So it's a very evolved question. Prashnan Prichasi, very high question you have asked. Ati Prashnan Prichasi. Prichasi means you are asking, you have asked this beautiful question. And Brahma Ishtha, you are desirous. Ishtha means desirous of Brahman. So you are Brahma Jnani Ishtha. You want this highest knowledge. Asi, you are. Iti, therefore, tasmat. Therefore, iti tasmat. Te ham bravimi. Therefore, I will tell this to you. So here, he has praised the student and the question, that this question is transcendental, and you are a seeker of Brahman. So you are not idly asking, just pick up a phone or send a WhatsApp, hey Guru, can you tell me about Brahman? No, he has stayed for 1 year, he has served the teacher, and he has been in that atmosphere, he has listened to all the teachings, and then he is asking the question. So the point is that adhikara has to be there. You cannot just ask. Adhikara does not mean that only Brahmanas can ask or only people who are favorite. It's not like that. Adhikara means you have to be qualified. And everywhere in the world, we see that. We can't have a 14-year-old child drive. Actually, recently it happened, a 14-year-old child drove and killed 2 of his siblings. It was in the news. So we don't allow a 14 or a 15-year-old child to drive. We have them get at 18-year-old, they have to pass a written test, then do a driving test. So everything requires a qualification. To go to college, you have to have done, prerequisites in high school. So here also, for a student to become eligible to ask and to understand the answer. See, anybody can ask the question, but he knows that the student is not only eligible to ask, but is capable of understanding, because he has stayed with me for 1 year and teacher has closely watched the student. It's not only studying, but one has to know how to apply the knowledge. See, one is you ask the question idly, "Arey, kuch kaam nahi hai, I have nothing to do, let me ask the teacher." No,
Let's see how
the
much he
student
knows.
wants to apply this knowledge, and getting this knowledge and not applying it, the Swamiji who gave whose commentary I'm listening, he says, getting the knowledge and not applying it is like a donkey carrying gold bricks. See, donkey is carrying gold bricks, but all it is doing is a burden for him, right? Is extra burden because he's not benefiting from it. So you and I, if we study this knowledge and it doesn't benefit us, then we are as good as that donkey. So that's what the teacher says, that the student is ready to apply this knowledge. And the question is also that not only how the prana leaves, but where does it go? And then how does it enter another body, or does it enter? All those questions. And then also this question is very interesting because we know that this source of the universe, which is Atman or consciousness, is akarta, is a non-doer. Brahman doesn't do anything. And yet, how does this whole world manifest? So all that is asked. And Guruji in a different book, Vedant Madhuryam, says it very beautifully that a lot of these unqualified students, who have not studied Tattva Bodh, Atma Bodh, and they go into a library and just pick up a Upanishad and start reading, or they haven't studied and they say, what is my favorite text? Ashtavakra Gita. Are they have this, and a lot of people do that. They haven't studied the basic text. So that's why a qualification is required. Qualification doesn't depend on caste or community or which family you belong to, but how you have prepared yourself for this highest knowledge. So for us also, because we are studying the Upanishads, as I know most of us have been studying the basic texts and have been studying for a few years, so we are qualified to study this text. And that's what the teacher understands. So he answers the third query, which is actually the most beautiful query, and according to a lot of masters, is the essence of this Upanishad. It's a very powerful answer in this third mantra. And this covers the whole essence of this Upanishad. So we'll spend some time in discussing the query answer number 3, mantra number 3 in query 3. Shaku, do you want to repeat, please? Atman esha prano jayate yat aisha purushe
Yathescha Purushe
chaya etasmin
Chaya Etasmin
etad atatam
Ekad Atmanam
etad atatam
Ekad Atmatan
manokritena
Manokrutena
ayati
Ayayati
asmin sharire.
Atmin Sharire.
Okay, you can please mute and we'll all chant together. Atman esha prano jayate yat aisha purushe chaya etasmin etad atatam manokritena ayati asmin sharire. Beautiful answer. So Atmanah, here Atmanah, they have used, it can be used as 5th case or 6th case. So in 6th case, it would be Atmanah, of Atman is this prana. And the 5th case is from Atma, this prana has evolved. So both can be used. So from this Atma, Atma here means the supreme consciousness, Brahman. Esha prano jayate. Esha means this prana that you are asking about. Jayate is born from this Brahman, is emerged from this Brahman, created from this Brahman. Yan yatha esha Purushe, in the man, in the human being, Chaya etasmin, in this, it manifests as Chaya, which is shadow. Etasmin atatam, having spread, etat atatam. So having this prana, having entered from this human being and manifested as shadow, not as real, but as shadow, etat atatam, then it spreads in the entire body. And how does it enter? Manokritena, by the action of the mind. Ayati, it enters asmin sharire, in this body, it enters through, it enters as a shadow due to the work of the mind, due to the influence of the mind. And where does it emerge from? It emerges from Atman or Brahman or the supreme consciousness. Now we have already heard that Brahman is non-dual, right? One alone exists. It is akarta, abhokta. And there is nothing except Brahman in this universe. Brahman alone exists. We have heard that. It is advayam. That's why we need to call Vedanta as Advaita. That there is no two. There is not that Brahman and me. Even though when we do puja, we say God and me, but for a Vedantin, there is only one. Brahman alone exists. And birth is not possible, because suppose from Brahman something else comes out, then that something becomes separate from Brahman. Then Brahman becomes dual. That there is Brahman and there is this world. And there is so creation is not possible. That's why in Mandukya it is ajatvad, that there is no creation. But we say we see the world. We see heaven and hell, and we see this world, and we see people being born and dying and all that. So the Upanishad says this can only be an appearance. Actually, from Brahman, nothing can emerge. Like a pot maker, he takes mud. So pot maker becomes the nimitta karana, mud becomes the upadan karana, and the wheel becomes the karana, the instrumental cause. So there is an intelligent cause, there is a material cause called upadan karana, there is instrumental cause, and the result is the pot. So is that the Brahman was there, and then he took the 5 elements, which is the material cause, and then he found some instrument called Maya, and then he put it on a wheel and created? No, because Brahman is akarta, doesn't do anything. And besides Brahman, there is nothing else. So that's why the Upanishads say this world is nothing but an appearance. It is a shadow. And what is the nimit karana, the intelligent cause, you can say, is Brahman, that is giving the energy. But the upadana karana and the karana is Maya. So Maya is the power of Brahman. That's why Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Devi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. So Bhagavan says that it is my Maya, which is this illusory force, which is dependent on Bhagavan. Maya is not independent. That's why Sri Krishna says, Mama Maya, it is my Maya. So this power called Maya manifested, and using the power of Maya, Brahman takes a role of Ishvara. Ishvara is the creator, sustainer, and destroyer of the universe, which we call as Brahmaji, Vishnu, Bhagavan, and Lord Shiva. So Brahman takes on these 3 roles, using Maya to make the world manifest like a chaya, like a shadow. So what we have to understand, that this world is a chaya appearance, is not real as it seems. It's not that I don't see the world. I see the world, I deal with the world, I experience the world, but the world has as much reality as a chaya. So you say, well, okay, so you're saying it is Chaya or Brahman. So was there another light behind Brahman? Because for us, for Chaya to come, right? If behind me there is a light, then Chaya will come in front. So was there another light behind Brahman,
No.
which caused? No, Brahman
Self.
itself is self-effulgent. There is nothing else that illumines Brahman. And Brahman himself manifested through this illusory power of Maya as this universe. So then we always say the world is unreal. You say, how can you say the world is unreal? I experienced it. I'm going through pain. I'm going through sorrow. So in Vedanta, we have talked before, but real means that which is there in all three periods,
Of time.
past, present, and future, Trikala,
Denied.
which is unchanged. So if anything is unchanged in all three periods, past, present, and future, that alone can be called real. What is changing is called unreal or appearance. And as we already said, if Brahman is everything and yet I see the world, I don't see Brahman, then the world is an appearance upon Brahman and apparently has concealed Brahman. I do not see the world because of Maya. They say, no, Maya, Bhagwan ki Maya, tabhi mujhe Bhagwan nahi dikhte. I don't see God because of this power of Maya. So this shadow example is very beautiful. It's very unique. It's only in this Upanishad. Because think about it. Say I'm walking on the road and the sun is setting. So my chaya is long, right? I'm walking on the sidewalk and the chaya is long all across the road and cars are going on it all the time. Do I feel any pain? No. The cars are going on my shadow. Let them go on my shadow. It doesn't affect me. They say, yeah, but you are saying this body is also chaya, but if a car goes on my foot, I will feel the pain. How can you say this is chaya, this body is chaya? So what the Rishi is saying, that your true nature is Atman or Brahman. This body is an equipment. And if a car goes over it and you
Car
get
is
a
also
foot
chaya.
fracture, yeah, car is also chaya. And if your foot fractures, yeah, for Vyavahar, you go to the hospital, put a cast on, and 3 months you. So it's not that you don't take care of the body. Vyavaharically, you have to take care of the body, but do not give too much importance, because this body is
Not the ultimate.
not the ultimate. My true nature is Brahman, and whatever happens will happen. But this, so they say, then is Maya real or unreal? Is this world real or unreal? Real means that which exists. Unreal means that which does not exist. Like something like, say, the horns on my head, they are unreal because they don't exist. But the fact that I can see the world and deal with the world, that they say a world is an appearance. It is there, it appears to be real, but it is neither real nor unreal. Same way Maya is neither real nor unreal. You can say, because Maya is trigunatmaka, made of three gunas. And the gunas are constantly changing. Maya is constantly changing. So that which is changing and not trikala badha, it is not unconditioned in the three periods, we say to be an appearance, because I experience it. So it is something which I experience, but is not real.
Only transactional.
Yeah, for transactional purpose, it is there. We are not saying. But what the Upanishad is pointing to, our true nature as Atman, as Brahman, and that is what we have to. And do not give too much importance to physical problems, emotional problems, intellectual problems. They will come and go, but my true nature is Atman. And I have to withdraw from this world and turn my mind's direction inward to this true consciousness which I am. So they say that which cannot be contradicted in three periods is real. And that which is constantly there as aham, 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 that I am. So we say, no, no, no. Okay, I understand I am Brahman. Guru, you are saying I am Brahman. Okay. But please tell me, is there heaven or hell? We still want to know, is there heaven or hell? Why is my husband giving me problems? Why is my teenager giving me problems? So I know I am Brahman. I got it. I 5 Upanishads before you had told me, I know I have understood I am Brahman, but why do I have problems? At least tell me what happens after death. Or can you read my hand and tell my future? Say you are Brahman, full stop. You have no past, you have no present, you have no future. There is no birth. You were never born. You will never die. There is no heaven. There is no hell. There is no life after death. There is no reincarnation. You were never born before. How can you say reincarnation? Where will I be born? Or how was I in my previous life? Maybe in my previous life I was this. And then in next life I want to be this. They say there is no life. You are Brahman, full stop. So that's where the Upanishad should end, that I am Brahman. And for Brahman, there is no birth, there is no death, there is no change, there is no sorrow, there is no joy. All that belongs to the body, not that you won't have joy or sorrow or success or failure, heat or cold. If it is heat, you don't say, oh, I am Brahman. I don't need to drink cold water. If there's cold, you don't say I am Brahman. I can take a bath in the pool. I had told you the story about that man who jumped in the pool at 2 o'clock in the morning in winter in our backyard saying I am Brahman. So that is I am not this body. That's a true story. 2 o'clock in the morning in winter, he had taken a bath. So that is foolishness. That is not understanding the teaching. You take care of the body, but realize I am not this body. I am Brahman, and whatever happens, even for such an individual, even death does not bother him. We had just studied in Ishavasya Upanishad, where in the second to last mantra, he says, let death come, let my body be cremated, let my breath merge with the total breath, and my body merge with 5 elements. Only thing I ask Bhagavan is, may I remember you at the time of death. May I not forget that greatest experience I had. So asking about heaven and hell and why is heaven and why is hell is like asking what created the snake? Who is the snake? Why is there a snake? How can I get rid of the snake? There is no snake, Bhagwan. Bhaiya, it is just a rope. But we don't believe that. We say, I see the snake, so there has to be real snake. That's what the Guru is telling us, that there is no snake. It is a rope alone. It is your misunderstanding that one person calls it snake, other person calls it garland, third person calls it a crack in the earth, the water, but it is rope alone. So similarly, you and I, we put our misapprehensions upon this world. Non-apprehension of Brahman creates misapprehension of this, all these theories. So whatever you see is apara vidya, whatever knowledge you have. They say, the Vedas say even we are apara, even though the Vedas give the highest knowledge, but it said we are apara vidya. Para vidya is what? This intuitive knowledge which using the Vedas takes me to that final experience, is not even the correct word, but the final abidance in the truth that I am Brahman, I am that. So that alone is called Paravidya, and that is an intuitive knowledge. It is using all these Upanishads, using all these teachings. When we come to that highest knowledge, that is called Paravidya. So all these Upanishads and these Vedas are aparavidya, but they take us to paravidya. Unlike science or chemistry or biology or botany, they will tell us about the world, how the world is there, and aircraft, how they fly, and space and rockets. But that is aparavidya, but will not take us to paravidya. So it is only the Vedas and the Upanishads that take us to this highest knowledge. And then his question. So that is what he said. It is like chaya and it pervades this entire body. So then the Rishi says, Mano kritena ayati asmin sharire. How does it enter? Through reflection in the mind. And we have heard that word, chaya.
The reflection
Of consciousness, chidabhas. The word chidabhas, reflection of consciousness. So this total consciousness as though reflects into the subtle body, which is the mind and intellect, and so in this subtle body, it reflects as the reflection of consciousness, and the mind and intellect is said to be created from the sattvic aspect of Pancha Mahabhutas. When the Pancha Mahabhutas, which were apanchikrita, undivided, we have studied in Tattva Bodh, when they become grossified, the subtle aspect of that makes the mind and intellect and the ability to see. The sattvic aspect. The rajasic aspect makes the prana and the organs of action. So all activity, because pranas are the source of activity, so organs of action are the rajasic aspect of this panchikrita, pancha mahabhuta. So sattvic aspect makes the subtle body and makes the ability of the sense organs. The ability of action, the five organs of action, their abilities, not the gross body, but the ability to speak, hold, walk, and all. And the pranas come from the rajasic aspect, and the tamasic aspect makes this gross visible body. So sattvic makes the antakarna, the rajasic makes pranas, and then the tamasic makes this gross visible body. So this gross visible body, that's why we have to constantly bathe it. One day you don't bathe. Why? Because it is made of the tamasic aspect of this panchikrit, pancha mahabhutas. And the subtle body has the ability to reflect, just as a mirror can reflect sunlight. A stone cannot reflect sunlight, only a mirror, which is shiny and subtle. So similarly, this subtle body, this antakarna, this mana, buddhi, chit, ahankar, has the ability to reflect consciousness like a mirror. And then what makes it leave? This we will talk in very brief, but it is discussed in detail in subsequent mantras. What is it that makes this prana leave, and what makes it the prana to stay, and what kind of body I have? They say it depends on karma. Whether I'm male or female depends on karma. What kind of family I get, all my karma. What kind of health I have, whether in my medical, my intellectual abilities, physical abilities, all depend on karma. And when we have heard about the three, the sanchit karma, the past karma, the prarabdha, the present, and agami, future. And when the prarabdha is over, that's when it leaves. So that's when this chaya, this prana leaves. It will be talked in more detail in subsequent mantras. So that's why Shankaracharya ji in Vivek Chudamani says, prarabdha pushyate vapuhu. Pushyate here means nourishes, does not mean push, but pushyate means nourishes. So it is because of prarabdha karma, because of my previous karmas, that I have this body, and this body is nourished by pranas, and it is because this consciousness reflects, just as the sunlight reflects on the mirror. And if you remove the mirror, does anything happen to the sunlight? No. Whether there's one mirror or there's 1,000 mirrors, if there's one cup of water or huge lake or a huge ocean, the sun remains the same, unaffected. Like, in the cup, you put some water and you see the sunlight reflected. When the water dries, you don't see the sunlight, but nothing happens to the sun. The sun actually says, I didn't do anything. It is in my presence that the reflection happened. The sun doesn't say, I'm so busy all day nourishing the world and energizing the world. I'm so tired because I'm doing all this work. Sun says, I don't do anything. I just give light, and in my presence, this whole universe is created, and people are being born, and then people are being nourished. Crops are growing, rain is falling, the evaporation is happening, the wind is moving, clouds are being formed, and the rain is falling. So just as the sun does not do anything and is unaffected by whatever happens, there may be a good person who is very kind and compassionate, another person using the same energy of sunlight, getting the same life, commits a murder or stealing or does something horrible. The sun says, I am not affected by that. So similarly, Brahman or consciousness, Atman says that in my presence, this prana is created, this body is created, this individual is created, and it is enlivened by prana in my presence. So this is the third mantra. There is a lot more can be talked about. We have about 9 minutes. Do we want to discuss or just do the fourth mantra? The fourth mantra is short. I can do that.
Yeah.
Do the fourth one? Or do people have a lot of questions on this third one?
And also it depends on the medium, where the reflection is happening.
Right.
That's how if the medium is pure, then the reflection is more.
Right. So Neeru just said, depends on the quality of the water. Quality of the medium. If the water is clean, then the reflection is clean. If the water is muddy, the reflection becomes muddy. Or if the water is agitated, the reflection becomes agitated. So if my mind is sattvic, that is clean, then the reflection is clean. But if my mind is agitated, has a lot of rajas, then the reflection, then I get agitated if I have too much rajas. And if I have too much tamas, that's like the water being dirty. So similarly, if my mind is pure, the reflection is pure. If my mind has too much rajas, it is disturbed. And if it has too much tamas, then that reflection appears dirty. But actually nothing happens to the sun, nothing happens to that consciousness. So the reflecting medium is what decides how my life will be lived. That's why they say develop more sattva, reduce rajas and tamas, try to live as much as possible in sattva, because the consciousness is one, and all of us are that reflection of that consciousness.
Is also thoughts. So it is what kind of thoughts we entertain also, because mind is nothing but flow of thoughts.
Right.
So the thoughts also depend on our vasanas, our desires. So that's where we have to control.
Right. So the causal body is the vasanas, and that determines our thoughts. And then depending on our thoughts are our actions. So the thought determines speech, and speech determines action. So everything, that's why they say pay attention to your thoughts, and also when you do actions which are wrong, that will strengthen the wrong vasanas. But doing actions which are unselfish, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, with the right knowledge, our vasanas will be reduced. Auntie, you have a question?
Yes, on this shloka, Brahma takes 3 roles. If you can tell me what 3 roles in a point perform.
Ji, in which shloka? What is
I
the
know
question?
you explain the whole thing after that. In the
3 roles, he plays 3 roles of
yeah,
creation.
Brahma plays 3 roles.
3 roles: Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh.
Okay, thank
The
you.
creator, sustainer, and the
Because
destroyer.
it's
So that Ishvara plays all the 3 roles as the
Okay.
creator, sustainer, and destroyer.
It's the same one.
It's the
not
same,
different.
but it's just 3 roles, 3
It's just
aspects.
Expressing through different medium, it plays a role of Brahmaji, role of Vishnu, like
Yes.
it's the medium. That's how it is the same pranas expressing through different sense organs also. It's the same pranas will
Right,
come.
right. Lata, you have question?
Yeah, I'm still trying to make sense of this chaya, shadow. I
Yeah, you
understand.
have to think on it quite a bit.
I
It's not
know.
that easy.
And I haven't thought about it, but let
Yeah.
me have some points clarified with both of you.
Go ahead.
Shadow is born of the man. I understand when you stand somewhere, you create a shadow. It says the prana spreads over the self, just like the shadow is born of the man. So is prana the shadow of a self?
Yeah, see, prana is in the previous mantra.
Is that? I mean, hold
Yes,
on.
yes.
Is that the sentence is telling us that
Yes,
shadow? The
Yes.
prana is the shadow of the self.
yes.
And you
yes.
just said that shadow is nothing but BMI of an individual. Is prana that is the life? Now, in this particular shloka, you meant to say prana is not, or on this query, prana is not the consciousness principle, it's the effect.
Yes.
It's the effect, yes.
So
It's the shadow.
I am having difficulty understanding this shloka.
No,
Sorry.
see, what happens is that the same word, we have to look in context. Remember, I have told you in
Yes,
context.
the context is your favorite
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, it's my favorite word. So in here, the student is asking, what are the 5 pranas, that the main prana, which he will tell in subsequent mantras, that there is one Mukhya Prana he will talk about. And that Mukhya Prana enters the body at the time of birth, in the womb, in the mother's womb, it enters. And then divides into 5, prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. So anything that enters and divides and nourishes has to be an effect.
Yeah.
It cannot be the cause. So that supreme consciousness, which had played the role of Prajapati, Hiranyagarbha, and we said prana is Prajapati in the previous mantras. We have said prana is Prajapati, prana is Surya, prana is Agni.
Yes.
So how many roles is prana playing? Prana is playing all those roles. Here it is the enlivening principle in the body, which is responsible for the 5 physiological
How
functions.
is maintaining.
Correct.
Maintaining. So the intake, prana, excretion is apana, vyana is the circulatory system, samana is the digestive system, and udana is the 5th one, which at the time of death takes us. Also is all the creative abilities happen because of udana. And also udana is responsible for all reverse functions like sneezing, vomiting.
It will come.
So udana, all that will come in detail. Actually, the 3rd query goes into a lot of detail of the function of each of those pranas. So here, prana is being used as an effect of that total consciousness.
Got it.
So that's why it's hard to understand. So prana here is the shadow. Is that?
Oh, okay.
Is that? Because if it comes from Atmana Esha Jayate, from Atma when it comes, that means it became a created. It's no longer the creator, it is the created.
Oh, okay. So not for this particular shloka number, but generally what you're referring here in this case, prana is the shadow.
Is the Chitta Shaya.
Chit
Do you
Chaya.
remember in the Tattva Bodh you studied Chitta Chaya? Chitta Shaya, the shadow, the reflection of consciousness.
Chidabhas?
Yeah,
Chidabhas.
Chidabhas, reflection of consciousness.
So that is this is what they are talking about. It's the same thing. Here they are calling it prana.
I know.
Right. And then
So that is why each Upanishad uses the different word. But this is what it is. It is Chit Chaya. That one.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful
Chidabhasa, beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the first Upanishad. When I heard this, I said, oh my God, it is so logical. And it was like I'm sitting in a science class studying, like it is so
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Really.
Right. And you'll see in the subsequent mantras how beautifully the Rishi has dissected the body and how the physiological functions work, and
Within and without.
how much clarity they had about the functioning of the body. This is thousands of years ago. They even described the prana, which I'll tell next week, which is responsible for opening and closing of the valves. They knew about that thousands of years ago, which science discovered in the 16th century. Harvey, the great scientist, talked about heart and valves opening in the 16th century, which they knew thousands of years ago, that there is a prana responsible for opening and closing of valves. They call it Dhananjaya. So they already knew that. So, so how beautifully this whole physiology, which we'll see in the next week, about details of this pranas, the 5 pranas, and how they function, what they do, and all that in the body. Very, very detailed.
Yeah, stand in front of the mirror, see your shadow, and apply this principle. You will understand why.
Like that, whatever is right.
So you would, Chidabhash, you would just say that is shadow.
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 Right. So that's where Neeru said beautifully, stand in front of the mirror and look at that shadow. And as real as that shadow is, that real is this world. So this whole world is shadow. That's Neeru is a very good example. Gurudev says in his commentary, you sit in front of a mirror, three-way
Think
mirror.
about it, because the mirror, if there is a dot on the mirror and it is appearing on my reflection, it's not in me actually, the real.
Correct.
It is in the medium, or it is in the reflection appearing it in.
Yes.
Right.
So these are the things, just think about it more and more. And then you will understand the word and this one very much. Everybody should think, just stand in front and then apply these points. And this is how the mananam happen. See, we have to do mananam on whatever we have heard. So it's beautiful.
This is a good homework. Stand in front of the mirror. Put some dust or dirt on it and then reflect on it. How
And then
about
reflect.
that?
Yeah. And then
It is the mirror. It is the mirror which has, and it is also the mirror which has the capability of giving the reflection. So it is the mind which has, mind is the one which is made up of, if we remember Panchikarana.
Yes.
So that it is made up of sattva, then only it reflects. Otherwise, it's not reflecting everywhere, consciousness. In the stone, there is no subtle body. In, so many other objects, there is no subtle body. So it doesn't, there is no consciousness there.
Yeah.
So it only reflects in the mind, that's Chitta Chaya. So that's how it gives life to it.
Thank you.
That's perfect. Thank
So
you.
I am as real as that reflection.
Yeah.
This I that I think is real is as real. This
And we
ego.
have given so much importance.
This ego, that's why Gurudev says it is this ego sense which divides into 5, which we'll do next week. How it divides and what does it do. So because that also the student asks. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I want to say that this subject is so deep. And if I'm just born out of a shadow, then I'm not real then, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you are not real. None of us is real.
Yeah, it just sounds so weird. And another thing about that, when prana leaves, what decides your karma?
Yeah, your prarabdha karma. When your prarabdha karma is over, that's why one person, the doctor may say, oh, nothing can be done. You take him home, or they're lying in the hospital in a coma, and sometimes they stay for months and years, and another guy is healthy, and at night he's in his sleep, he suddenly goes away in perfect health. So when the prarabdha, if the prarabdha karma is not gone, the person can live even years in a coma. Or if the prarabdha karma is gone, even a young healthy person may go. So it's all the prarabdha karma.
So you will not know when your prarabdha karma comes.
Yeah, it depends what package we have brought it.
Right.
Yes.
So that's why time is short. We don't know when we will go. So get this knowledge, apply it, and live it. And that's why they said, don't just get this knowledge. Remember the donkey example? Don't just carry gold bricks. Having got this knowledge, apply that. This was very powerful. When that Swamiji said, I said, oh, that's so true. We have this knowledge, but we don't apply. It's like donkey carrying gold bricks. So it's like he gave a slap to us. It was so
True.
powerful.
You mean to say when we deck up in gold, we are like donkeys?
But that I didn't say. I didn't say that. That Swamiji said. No, anyway, just joking. What he means is that like a donkey carrying gold is no use to him. It's just extra burden. So carrying knowledge is just extra burden. It's just like previously I didn't know Prasnopanishad. Now I know Prasnopanishad. But it's just extra burden on my brain unless I apply that. So that's what he meant.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Om
Sarve
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.